It started with something small, so small, in fact, that I almost laughed it off at first. But looking back now, I realize that the quietest changes in life often whisper before they roar. My name's Daniel, and I've always believed that family means everything. You grow up thinking blood will never turn cold, that love, once rooted, can't be shaken loose by time or circumstance. But life has a way of testing even the strongest beliefs. From where are you watching? I'd love to hear how far these stories reach. My brother Ethan and I grew up inseparable, 2 years apart but closer than twins. He was the dreamer, brilliant, reckless, charming in ways I never was. I was the planner, the one who cleaned up after his chaos. Our parents used to joke that I was the anchor and he was the sail. Together we balanced the wind. We drifted apart in our 30s. I got married, built a quiet life in the suburbs, and devoted myself to my work. Ethan, well, he went the other way. He chased things that burned fast and faded faster. Jobs, women, dreams. Every few months I'd get a call asking for help, and though my wife Claire would frown, I always answered. "He's your brother," she'd say, trying to sound neutral, but I could hear the weariness behind her voice. Last winter, Ethan called again. His voice was tired, different. "Dan," he said, "I just need a few weeks. I lost my place, and I'm trying to get back on my feet." I didn't hesitate. "Of course," I told him. "Come stay here. We've got the guest room." Claire was quiet when I told her. She nodded once and said, "Just for a few weeks, right?" "Just a few weeks," I promised. When Ethan arrived, he looked older than I remembered, hollow eyes, unshaven, the kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from running too long from life itself. Still, when he smiled for a second, I saw my brother again, the one who used to sneak out with me to catch fireflies behind our parents' house. The first few days were fine. Ethan helped around the house, made coffee in the mornings, joked with Claire at dinner. It almost felt like the old days. But slowly, something shifted. It started with Claire. She grew distant, quieter. When Ethan entered the room, her posture stiffened slightly, her eyes avoiding his. I thought maybe it was just the awkwardness of having a guest long term. But then came the small, unsettling moments, like when I'd walk into the kitchen and the two of them would go silent mid-conversation. Or when Claire began locking her phone, something she'd never done before. I brushed it off, told myself I was imagining it. After all, she was my wife, steady, kind, the woman who'd stood by me through every storm. One night, as we sat at dinner, I noticed Ethan watching Claire as she spoke. Not in a way that was flirtatious, but searching, almost guilty. I couldn't place it. When I asked him about his job hunt, he deflected. "Working on something," he said. "Might be a few opportunities in the city." Later that night, I found him sitting on the porch, staring at the sky. "You okay?" I asked. He hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Yeah, just thinking. You ever wonder if some mistakes can't be fixed, no matter how hard you try?" I chuckled awkwardly. "All the time." He looked at me then, really looked. "You've got a good life, Dan. Don't take it for granted." I didn't know what to say. There was something in his tone. Regret, maybe. I didn't push it. The next few days, Claire started leaving early for errands that stretched longer than usual. She seemed preoccupied, distracted. At night, I'd find her awake, scrolling through her phone, her face lit by the screen, expression unreadable. When I asked if everything was all right, she'd smile softly and say, "Just tired." By the second week, the house felt heavy with something unspoken. Even the air seemed to hum with tension. One morning, I woke early and went to make coffee. Ethan's mug was already in the sink, half drunk. Claire's keys were gone. I checked the time. It was barely 6. When she returned, I asked where she'd gone so early. "Grocery run," she said too quickly. They had a sale on fruit. But when I glanced at the bags, there wasn't a single apple or orange in sight. I wanted to believe her. God knows I tried. But doubt is a slow poison. It starts small, then spreads until everything you touch tastes like suspicion. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up for water and noticed the faint sound of voices in the backyard. I peered through the blinds. Ethan and Claire were standing by the garden, talking quietly. She looked upset, hands folded across her chest. He reached out like he was trying to comfort her, but she stepped back, shaking her head. My throat went dry. I wanted to burst outside, demand an explanation, but something in their faces stopped me. It wasn't passion, it was pain, guilt. The next morning, Ethan acted normal, cheerful even. Claire barely met my eyes. Later that day, I found an envelope on the kitchen counter. No name, just my handwriting on the back, except I didn't remember writing it. Inside was an old photograph, me, Ethan, and Claire, taken years ago at our parents' anniversary dinner. On the back, a date and a message. "You deserve to know." I stared at it for minutes, heart pounding, confusion twisting into dread. When I confronted Ethan, he froze. "Where did you find that?" he asked. voice tight. On the counter, I said. What's going on, Ethan? He hesitated. Dan, maybe not now. Please, let's just not do this yet. Not do what? I demanded. You and Claire, what aren't you telling me? His eyes filled with something I'd never seen in him before, fear, not of me, but of whatever truth was about to escape. Give me a day, he said quietly. Please, just one day, then I'll tell you everything. That night, neither of us spoke. Claire stayed in the guest room, claiming she needed space. I sat in the dark, the photo still in my hand, my mind replaying every glance, every silence, every word that hadn't been said. And as the clock struck midnight, I realized something chilling, whatever this was. It didn't start 2 weeks ago. It started years before. I just hadn't seen it. I didn't sleep that night. The photograph sat on the table like a silent witness, its edges curling slightly under the weight of time. That small handwritten note, "You deserve to know," replayed in my mind over and over. I tried to make sense of it, to fit the pieces together, but every possibility hurt. When the first light of morning broke through the curtains, I found myself sitting at the kitchen table, still in last night's clothes. The house was quiet, except for the distant hum of the refrigerator. Ethan's door was closed. Claire's side of the bed was untouched. At 8, Ethan emerged, dressed but pale. He poured himself a cup of coffee, his hand trembling slightly. Dan, he said, his voice low, let's go for a drive. Bah. I followed him wordlessly. We got into my car and drove without direction, the silence between us louder than the engine. After a few minutes, I couldn't take it anymore. Talk, I said. Whatever this is, just say it. He exhaled, eyes fixed on the road ahead. It's not what you think, or at least not the way you think. I felt my pulse quicken. Then what is it? He hesitated, his jaw tightening. You remember when Mom got sick? How I moved back home for a while? Of course I do. Well, there were things I didn't tell you. About her, about the money. I frowned. What does that have to do with Claire? He swallowed hard. More than you think. We pulled over near an empty field, the kind where the horizon stretches forever. He turned off the engine and sat there, staring straight ahead. After Mom died, he began slowly, Dad was already a mess. He trusted me to handle the estate paperwork, but I screwed up. I made some bad investments, used some of the inheritance to try and start over. It fell apart. I lost nearly everything. I looked at him, confused and angry. You what? Ethan, that was... He cut me off. I know I messed up, but that's not the worst part. Claire found out. My heart stopped. Claire? He nodded. You remember how she used to handle some of Mom's medical bills? She saw the withdrawals one day when I was trying to fix the mess. I begged her not to tell you. She agreed, but only if I paid it back. Every cent. I tried for years. That's why I kept disappearing, Dan. I wasn't running from life. I was trying to make it right. I sat there speechless. So Claire knew all this time? Yes, he said softly. She was protecting you from it. From me. The world tilted slightly. The tension between them suddenly made sense. The late-night talks, the guilt in her eyes, the silence between them. They weren't hiding an affair. They were hiding my brother's failure. Why didn't you just tell me? I asked, my voice shaking. Because you always believed in me, he said quietly, and I couldn't bear to lose that. You were the only one who still saw me as something better than my mistakes. I didn't want to ruin that image for you. For a long time, I said nothing. I stared out at the open field, watching the wind move through the tall grass like slow waves. All those years, I'd seen my brother as reckless, selfish. But now, I realized he'd been carrying a secret for me, one he couldn't fix, no matter how much he tried. When we drove back, the air between us was different. Heavy still, but not with anger, more with a quiet sorrow. Claire was waiting in the kitchen when we got home. Her eyes were red, her face pale. She looked at Ethan, then at me. You told him? He nodded once. She exhaled, relief and dread blending into one. I'm sorry, Daniel, she whispered. I never wanted to keep things from you. I just thought if he could fix it, you'd never have to know. I looked at her, my wife, the woman I'd trusted beyond question, and I didn't know how to respond. She wasn't lying. She wasn't betraying me. She was protecting me from a truth that would have broken my faith in my brother years ago. Still, it hurt. The secrecy hurt. I walked out to the porch, needing air. After a moment, I heard her footsteps behind me. You have every right to be angry, she said softly. But please understand, I was trying to keep you from choosing between your family and your peace. I didn't answer. I just watched the street, remembering all the small moments I'd misread, the silence at dinner, the awkward glances. The weight between them wasn't guilt born of desire, it was guilt born of protection. That night, Ethan came to my room. I'll be gone by morning, he said. You don't have to leave, I said quietly. He gave me a sad smile. Yeah, I do. You've got a good life. Dan, you and Claire both. Don't let me hang around and remind you of everything I ruined. B. When I woke the next morning, he was gone, his bed neatly made, the guest room spotless. On the nightstand, there was a note. I never stopped trying to make things right. I just ran out of time. I read it over and over, feeling something between grief and gratitude. Days passed before I told Claire I forgave her. It wasn't easy, but I understood now that she'd been caught in the crossfire between two brothers who loved each other but never learned how to speak the truth. Still, something about the story didn't sit right. Ethan said he'd lost everything trying to fix his mistake. But how? Where? With who? I went back through some of my mother's old papers in the attic. Most of it was routine, medical bills, letters, receipts. But tucked in the back of a file folder, I found a stack of old bank documents, transfers. One name kept appearing on them. It wasn't Ethan's. It was mine. At first I thought it was a clerical error, but as I read through them, my chest tightened. The money he claimed to have lost, he hadn't lost it. He'd transferred it to me, quietly, over years, bit by bit. That's when the truth hit me like a wave. He had made it right. He'd just never wanted me to know. I sat there, staring at the papers, feeling 1,000 emotions fight for space inside me. Guilt, awe, love, regret. Every line on those bank statements told a story I'd never seen. A quiet redemption written in numbers and silence. My brother hadn't stolen from the family. He had rebuilt what he broke, piece by piece, until I was whole again. And he was empty. For 15 years I'd seen him as the reckless one, the screw-up, the one who always needed saving. But he had been the one doing the saving, quietly, selflessly, without asking for credit or forgiveness. And I had hated him for it. That night I sat with Claire in the living room. The house felt different now. Smaller somehow, or maybe just quieter. I showed her the documents. She pressed a trembling hand over her mouth as she read. "Oh my God," she whispered, "he really did it." I nodded. Every cent. He gave it all back, even when he had nothing left to give. Her eyes welled with tears. He didn't want you to see him as a failure. He wanted to earn your forgiveness before he ever asked for it. I swallowed hard, and I treated him like a stranger in his own brother's house. Claire reached over and took my hand. "You didn't know, Dan. He didn't let you." But knowing didn't make it easier. It made it worse, because now I realized what his final words meant. I ran out of time. He'd made things right, but never given himself the chance to heal from it. For days I searched for him, calling old friends, checking shelters, asking around, nothing. It was as if he'd vanished into the air. And maybe that's what he wanted. Maybe he didn't want to be found. One evening, about a week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name, written in his messy handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single page. "Dan, if you're reading this, you found what I left behind. I didn't tell you because I couldn't stand the look you'd give me, that mix of pity and disappointment. I needed to fix what I broke on my own terms, and I did. Every bit of what was lost is now yours again, because that's how it should have been all along. You once told me that being family means never keeping score. I guess I finally learned what that means. I'm not running anymore. I just need to rest. Don't come looking for me. Just live, brother. Live the life you always believed we both could have. Ethan." The paper blurred through my tears. There were no grand explanations, no melodrama, just the simple, devastating honesty of a man who'd finally made peace with himself. I folded the letter carefully and set it in my mother's old jewelry box, the one she used to keep her wedding ring in. Somehow, it felt right that both should rest together now, her memory and his redemption. Months passed, seasons changed, the guilt slowly gave way to understanding. I started to look at life differently, at family differently. I realized how easily we mistake silence for betrayal, and how often love hides behind the things left unsaid. Claire and I grew closer through it all. We began to talk more openly about the things we feared, the things we'd hidden under the name of protection. The house felt lighter, the nights quieter, not with emptiness, but with peace. And then one crisp autumn morning, I got a call from a small hospital 3 towns over. They'd found Ethan. He'd passed quietly in his sleep 2 nights earlier, in a modest care home he'd checked himself into months before. No drama, no possessions. Just a few clothes, a half-read book, and a note to the staff asking that his brother be notified when the time comes. When I went to collect his things, the nurse handed me a small wooden box. "He said you'd understand," she told me. Inside were a few photographs, one of us as kids, one of Mum, and one of me and Claire on our wedding day. Behind them, folded neatly, was a faded letter written years ago. It was from our mother. "If anything ever happens to me, promise me you'll look after each other. You're both my heart, one strong, one soft. Together, you're whole." I read it aloud in that quiet hospital room, and for the first time in years, I let myself cry. Not the kind of crying that comes from pain, but from release, from the weight finally lifting. Ethan hadn't been a failure. He'd been exactly what our mother said he was, the softer heart, the one who broke so the other could remain whole. When I left the hospital, the sun was setting, painting the sky in streaks of amber and gold. I stood in the parking lot for a long time, feeling the cool wind brush my face. Somewhere deep inside, I could almost hear his voice, laughing like he used to, carefree and light. "I did it, Dan," I imagined him saying. "We're even now." I smiled through the tears. "No," I whispered into the wind. "We never were. You gave me everything, brother. Everything." As I drove home, I realized that some betrayals aren't betrayals at all. Sometimes they're acts of love wearing the mask of shame. Sometimes the people we doubt are the ones quietly saving us behind the curtain of our misunderstanding. And sometimes forgiveness doesn't come with words, it comes with silence, with peace, with the kind of love that doesn't need to be seen to be felt. When I got home, I placed Ethan's wooden box on the mantel beside our family photograph. Claire came and stood beside me, her hand finding mine. We stood there for a long time, saying nothing, just watching the fire burn slow and steady. In that moment, I finally understood what he'd done, what family really meant. It wasn't about inheritance or fairness or who got what. It was about love that endures even through broken promises and forgiveness that arrives long after the apology is gone. That night, before turning in, I whispered softly into the quiet room. "Rest easy, brother. You made it right." The wind outside picked up, brushing against the windows like a familiar sigh, and for the first time in 15 years, I finally slept in peace.